everyone, welcome to another Power Talk with Archanna. This is your platform to grow your business. We help you turn your idea into a brand. We create its presence to reach your target audience. Welcome to my world as I collaborate with business leaders from across the globe. I have one such business leader with me today, Diana Ruiz. Diana is a part of my professional network and based in San Francisco. She is the president and founder of the Women's Global Leadership Initiative, a non-profit organization that trains women in leadership development and provides support through education, mentorship, and access to women's professional network. Let's give a very warm welcome to Diana. Hello, Diana. How are you doing today?
Very well. How are you doing, Archanna?
I'm very well. We are so very delighted to have you with us. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming in board and speaking to my audience. So, Diana, as we start this journey, we all know that you are the inclusion and diversity queen, and you have been working in this area for many, many years now, quite extensively in this area. Now, but I feel there are roadblocks no matter what. I mean, we have been preaching a lot about inclusion and diversity. All said and done with, there are roadblocks. Now, tell me one thing, according to you, why is it really so difficult for people to accept a woman? To accept a woman as a leader having an opinion of her own.
Oh, well, I think that the number one thing is the cultural and social conditioning, right? So we bring with us our culture and how we've been raised, and that is generational. It's very deep. So it goes back 500 years. So if you look up starting creating any kind of change within a family system or an organization, change tends to have the highest resistance. So it's very easy to get comfortable. And when there's change, it's very difficult to adapt, right? And so I think that that's primarily the first thing is social and cultural conditioning. And then because of corporations and academic institutes and business and nonprofit across all societal business sectors, it's traditionally been headed by men, right?
Yeah.
And then you bring in women, and that's another change, right? So I think that also there's a lot of fear and misunderstanding on the role of women, right? And that's another challenge for organizations.
Yeah, I think you are quite right there. The fact of the matter is that these things are so deep rooted. These have been going on for years and years and generations, with us. And so that is the reason probably it's taking such a long time, and it will maybe still take, I don't know how many more years for us to bridge that gap. Well, hoping for the best to happen. So tell me one thing, I mean, considering the next generation women, I'm like, definitely wouldn't want them to stop dreaming. So, what is your message? How can they really fight these roadblocks and still dream big and lead with pride?
Well, I think that for the young women, and they're also going to face those obstacles of cultural conditioning with their mothers and their grandmothers and so on, think where they should be and where they should be going. And as it's a default, right? And what happens to a lot of women that I've seen in terms of coming from traditional societies is they're constantly struggling with, if I want change, is that going to go against my culture? And when I want change, is that going to in some way nullify my grandmother's experience or the way that she lived? I think that one of the greatest things that a young woman could have is people who believe in her, right? And who don't impose those societal conditioning and that let them mark their own way, right? Also, one other thing is having mentors and having another professional woman who is out there that they can attach to. So someone who looks like me that's able to achieve, that's also from my culture and who has very deep roots, that is creating a different reality for themselves. The messages for young women that I have is invest in your personal and professional development. There is no easy way, and so it's going to take a lot of work to deal with those internal conflicts. But at the end of the day, we can respect our culture and our past, in our history, and honor our ancestors and create our own path, right? But it does take a lot of work. So personal transformation. Who am I? What do I bring? What's the value of my personal history? Where has my culture been? And what is the primary strength in the women in my family, right? So who am I? What do I bring? What's my cultural background? And then where am I going? So those are foundational development areas that have to first be attended to. After that are the professional skills and tools in order to help me negotiate in those systems where I'm going to find more conflicts, right? So who am I? What do I bring? And what are the tools to help me negotiate and navigate my career, right? So then you build a foundation, and then the skills. And so the values hold up the person, right? So you can see it as a stake in the ground. This is who I am. This is what I bring. This is what I want. This is what's no longer negotiable, right? And I'm aligned. So when you think about standing with a stake in the ground, anything else that doesn't fit within that realm of my values and my beliefs and where I'm going, right, will just fall away.
Lovely.
And so oftentimes people, my daughter, for instance, told me the other day, well, these people are not my friends anymore, and this and this and this, and I said, it's a journey, and then we have different seasons, and so when things fall away today, I don't question them, and I say, oh, I just see, she's gone, he's gone. There's a reason for this, and if I just sit in that truth, that as long as I believe that everything that surrounds me is true and aligned with my values and who I am, and then I move forward, more will be revealed. The path continues to open. So in building women personally and professionally, it's not only to open their eyes, but also trust in where they're going.
Yeah.
Right. And so that helps us walk through fear.
Lovely. I really, really loved it. I think it's so very important to be self-aware of who you are and why you are there in the first place, Once we start with a no, we just try and figure out what are the no's, the things that are just not acceptable to us. You will start filtering out things that are acceptable to you, and you will only be left with those things. And you will simply shun away all the no's of your life and stick to your core values, which are your yeses.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely lovely.
Bravo,
Absolutely lovely.
bravo. It's very true in negotiations. The first thing we teach is, okay, you know what you want, what you think you want, but what is no longer acceptable, right? And so we teach young women to say no for a whole week, consistently saying just no with no explanation, because we tend to overcompensate. And as soon as we start explaining things, our no loses its power.
Yeah.
Right. Always
Love.
explaining.
Love.
And to no sorries. So excuse the
Yes.
delay. I'll get right back to you. I'll attend to that immediately. But no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So people that work within the organization are not allowed to say they're sorry.
Great. All right, Diana, tell me one thing. Why are organizations today not able to implement this so very important aspect to have a good, healthy work culture? Why aren't we able to incorporate D&I there in its fullest grandeur, if I can say so?
Resistance, organizational systems. I would say that the main target would be leadership, right? So leadership has to have that on their agenda. So we're going to bring more women into leadership positions. We're going to do more talent and recruitment around POC, which people of color. It has to be on the actual agenda, not one of the organizational objectives. So organizations tend to look towards leadership for leadership, right? So if leadership are practicing those principles, then others will follow. In order to make changes within organizations in terms of talent and recruitment and bringing more women into leadership positions and more people of color, it has to be part of the organizational agenda. So organizational agendas would have revenue, target markets, and so on. But within change of the organization has to be part of the actual agenda. So from and having those goals and targets, it will hit other development areas within organizations. Today, what we see is that each department or area within the organization has its own objectives that feed into the actual agenda, and it just doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. Now, though, we're in the US, we have a unique opportunity in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement and people of color challenging the status quo. And it's a unique opportunity because the door has opened. And because we are a global community now, the next generation is coming with a very powerful agenda.
Yes.
And future talent is the next generation. So the organizations, in order to recruit and retain these people, are going to have to set the agendas that address those questions. And what we saw here happen in the US was incredible, because it's during a pandemic and people were very afraid, of course, to pass this on, but the passion and the concern to push for inclusivity was much more important than anything. It's a human rights type of movement. As of about 4 months ago, I started the D&I initiative. I was speaking with diversity directors, and this was before the Black Lives Movement, before the Floyd incident, which is where that Black gentleman was basically strangled by the police.
Yeah.
We were speaking about all the frustrations around diversity and inclusion, and why wasn't it part of the national agenda? Why wasn't it part of the leadership agenda? And we said, well, why don't we start a group where D&I professionals can sit down and have conversations they normally would not have in an organization, and share each other's agendas, strategies, tools, and so on, and start a movement within the D&I world. And so we set out to do that about a month before the Floyd incident. And then the Floyd incident hit, and I could tell you, I was just paralyzed. I didn't talk about anything to anybody for 3 or 4 days. I was depressed, saddened by the incident. Kind of, I felt like I've been working in human rights and women's rights my whole life, and this is still consistent. Why bother? And then one morning I woke up and I said, what are you talking about? You're in the solution. You've started this association of D&I professionals. You're working towards an answer. Get up.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing today in that arena. And the other arena is that we've set in place a D&I initiative at the university, trades, and colleges.
Wow.
So it's a program that teaches these women from the onset of their careers with the skills, negotiations, personal development, personal brand, this type of thing, before they leave the university, preparing them to go into organizations.
Yeah.
Are the people that are sponsoring those programs as part of their D&I objectives are organizations,
Wow.
right? So it's a mutual commitment to bring in more women and more women of color into leadership. So we have self-selected leaders at university, college, and trade school campuses who have self-selected as leaders, right? And who are preparing themselves, and they're part of the talent and recruitment pool that's going into organizations. We'll follow them for a period of 10 years.
Wow.
Right? So there's some accountability there. And talking
Yes.
again about the next generation, it's not only about talent and recruitment, of recruiting and retaining the future talent, but also if you think about consumer impact. So today, that generation is choosing not to buy products from certain suppliers, supply chain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if they're not ethical, we're not participating. If they don't have women in positions of leadership, we're not participating. And so now it has a minimal impact, but as the years pass, that's going to be customary,
Yeah.
right? So that's going to become a norm. So
Oh,
I could
yes.
see between, not immediately, but in the next 10 years, we'll see great transformation in the area of D&I.
Yeah.
In India, over the last 7 years, I've seen a lot of groups emerge. The women that came together to be part of the police department. I mean, so many things. The Women's Economic Forum in Delhi, that I helped develop that forum. So there's so many groups that are coming about. And I've seen a lot of organizations that have been primarily targeting, you know, here in India, the caste system. So those women that are at the very bottom of the caste system and helping them create cooperatives and so on. So we have some movement. Progress is slow, but it's important. It's important to note the work that you do every day. It's an accumulative process, right? So I'm the type of person when they say, how many people do you want to educate today? Let's say, for instance, in India, and I say 20,000.
Wow.
That's my end goal, but it's the 10 that are educated every day, right? Because as
Lovely.
women, we're community representatives. So we touch men, other women, children, our grandparents, and then the systems within we work, and the systems that we work within, right? Where men tend to be a more focused on the career and the family, but we're generally speaking community representatives. We know what's going on here, there, here, there.
Yeah.
So that's why women are very good leaders. Before they make decisions, they actually think of how it's going to impact the system or the ecosystem, right?
Very
The
right.
grander impact. And that's not to say anything against men, because I see men as our allies.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, of course, there are those primitive gorillas everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's also up to us women to prepare our men and our sons, and not default to the customary in the Latino culture. The man stays home until he's 25, 26, 30, and the woman is gone at 18, 19. She's at the university, she has a full-time job, she bought her own car, and then the man is more of the pretty boy. He gets to take his time.
Yeah. No, I think you summed it up really beautifully. It is so very important for women to raise their men a certain way. I mean, the way we groom our boys, I think it talks a lot about the kind of people they will become when they grow up, and the kind of, the ecosystem they grow around themselves, develop around themselves, and for the women they are associated with. I think it depends a lot on the way they are raised. If
Yeah.
we actually, it's quite a deep rooted concern, if we at home, start to, train them, help them understand how important it is to respect one's freedom of choices they make, of, and respect women. I think a lot can change, and we women and women can learn to live together, because all said and done with, we complement one another. We just work the best with when we are teams, so I
Yeah.
think we just need to understand that, and take it in the right spirit, and make that change in ourselves, the way we think. I think we can definitely start, and I think this can be a big movement. This already is. It's just about getting more and more momentum. Great. So very lovely speaking to you, Diana. Anything else you would like to add to this wonderful conversation, the pearls of your wisdom to share with my audience?
I think that I'd like to pose a challenge to the women that are listening today, that before we react and before we make judgments um, in our encounters with men and or women, to take a pause and see this person in front of you as a human being, and that
Yeah.
the first objective is to listen, to try to understand, and to try to put yourself in that person's shoes, to see from their lens, and know that you're gaining a greater understanding and world
Yeah.
perspective. And this is part of a challenge to grow. When you're talking about personal development as being the foundation from where you move, this is our greatest challenge. Rather than talk, listen, learn, and then move from that
Wow.
perspective. So then you're becoming a representative of those around you, a community representative, a leadership role.
Great, lovely, lovely speaking to you. So it's all about walking your talk. Thank you so much, Diana. Thanks a lot for speaking to my audience. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you on my show. Have a wonderful life ahead.
Thank you, Archanna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Diana Ruiz for you, the inclusion and diversity leader all the way from San Francisco. I hope you really enjoyed her perspective on diversity and inclusion. As she very rightly said, it's time to walk your talk. Whatever strategies and policies you formulate for your people and in the organization, it is important for you to adapt all of those in your system as a leader, so that your core values percolate down to all the departments, all the verticals in the system. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation, understanding her perspective on diversity and inclusion. I wish all of you the very best. Until then, stay tuned for more.